Hey guys, Moose here. Welcome back to another episode of Life is Feudal Forest Village. Hope you guys are enjoying your Friday. Assuming, of course, you are watching this the day that it goes live. I know many of you probably are not, but hey, 1 in 7 chance, theoretically, that the day that you are watching it on is also a Friday. So you never know. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know if this is a conversation I necessarily want to have in a Life is Feudal video. I think it is one that I have to have here. Might do it again a little bit differently if and when I actually do a proper Banished series on the channel, which is certainly within the realm of possibility. Far from guaranteed, to be sure, but definitely possible. So, I don't know. Not something I've ruled out, I guess. Let's put it that way. They've already finished harvesting a bunch of these, so... Okay, I'll just let it roll. I don't need to... Excuse me, I don't need to really worry about it. Like, some of them I should pull back, just because they're already more or less done anyway. Or they've already done one... Like, this one already did one round, I think. It's hard to say. I hope the flax and oats already did one, but who really knows, honestly. Anyway, that conversation that I was alluding to. I mentioned Banished. I mentioned that I might do it in the Banished series, if I do a Banished series, which is definitely on the table at the moment. It seems silly not to, considering that it seems as though town builders, city builders, are, for better or worse, the niche that I seem to exist in on YouTube. The two big series that I've had over this channel's lifetime, which is about 2 years now, coming up on 2 years in 3 or 4 months, I think, so we're almost there, have been Stonehearth and this game, Life is Feudal. Both town builders of not the same nature, definitely different, but a little bit similar. So, town builders are definitely where I seem to succeed for the moment, which isn't something I want to always be true. I want to play other games too. I don't exclusively play this type of game. But that's a conversation for another time. I'm not opposed to this type of game, there's other stuff I enjoy and play. Right, this is just the farm, and then you are short 2. Perhaps 3. Yeah, 1 died right after okay. That was weird. Anyway, on to the point, since I've been tiptoeing around it for a while now, as I reallocate my manpower. I played Banish in my last stream, which was on Wednesday. There's going to be another one today, but that is going to be Monster Hunter, not Banished. Even though I'm probably the last I'm one of the last people... Sorry. Made the same error in speaking twice. That's impressive. In a bad way. I'm one of the last... Wait, no, I said it right. Why did my brain think that was wrong? I'm one of the last people out there that I think people are going to watch play Monster Hunter. It's a big game. If you're a small streamer, you're not going to succeed playing big games. You just kind of got to find stuff where you're the only one streaming, but they're still semi-popular games, just not necessarily anymore. Older titles. You can build an okay niche there. Probably one of the most successful streams I've had recently was City Skylines. Stuff like that. If you can find something that definitely still has a following, but isn't necessarily up there where it maybe used to be, that's a good spot to hit if you're a up-and-coming streamer. That has been my experience. YouTube works similarly, but not the same. It's a little different. Anyway, back to the topic of conversation. I streamed some Banished. I haven't played Banished in quite a while. I've forgotten nearly everything about it. It was like loading up an alpha version of Life is Feudal Forest Village. It wasn't the same. It wasn't identical. But it was damn close. And I did not give enough credence to the people who were I guess, crying out, saying, "Oh, this is ridiculous, they're made the same, they just stole whatever Banished did." And I want to... Those are not my words. I'm, to a degree, I suppose, reiterating some of the reviews that I've seen over time for Life is Feudal. So, it raises a really difficult and interesting question that I touched on a bit in the stream, but can't really answer, to be honest, because it's a really difficult question, and I don't know what the right answer is. I'm not entirely sure there is a right answer. If you look for the differences between the two games, I think the majority of them you could argue are superficial. There's more types of food that are actually separated out, and they have kcal counts. That's probably the biggest difference. In Banished, as I believe I understand it from the brief 2 hours I put into it a couple days back, it's all mushed together. It's all one chunk. It's all one thing. One food of this type is the same as one food of this type. It's all units. Here it's not so. You have different... not only do you have different kcal counts, but you also have different uses. It's possible that that's true as well in Banished, but I don't believe it is. I think I could be completely wrong about that, but that, again, based on the 2 hours I played yesterday, I think that's correct. So, there's no argument about whether or not Life is Feudal. Let's use a little more neutral term, not loaded terminology. Borrowed. There's no arguing that Life is Feudal borrowed design from Banished. You can't debate that. It's like looking at the same game with a different skin. It's like actually... I think a lot of companies, if a big company owned Banished, if Activision, EA, Blizzard, any of these big companies owned Banished, and they saw Life is Feudal, you better believe there'd be a lawsuit, I think. Does that mean there should be one? Does that mean it's justified? No, I don't necessarily think so. I don't think it's not, but I don't think that that's the right reaction. I think that would happen because it's a big company and their attitude is screw you, get away from my property. Not necessarily a reasonable interpretation of what's fair and right. So I'm not saying that Life is Feudal ripped off Banished. I'm not saying that it stole anything. I don't think it's that simple of a conversation. And the way I thought about it during the stream was, okay, well, if you were setting out, let's say you're the developer of Life is Feudal. If you're setting out to make a game, you're saying like, damn, man, I played Banished. That game was amazing. I really enjoyed playing that game. It was fantastic. It was everything I could possibly want in a city builder, except it ended too early. And the developer of Banished said, I'm done. I finished it. That's my finished product. I'm not going to do any more with it. Done. Here you go. He's out. The developer of Banished communicated that he's done. Publicly, as I understand it. So there's no question there. It's not like, oh, you guys stepped on my foot. Yeah, I was making more and you guys ruined the market for me. No. That's not something that happened. The guy said he was out. Or not out, but done with this product. And by this product, I don't mean Life is Feudal, I mean Banished. So to a degree, I think it should be reasonable to say, hey, you know, this game was fantastic. This is a great game. It showed... I don't know if there was was there really a game like that prior to Banished? I'm not entirely sure there was. I think maybe we brushed up against it a few times, but Banished really, if not for the content, was the one that nailed it, I think. It needed more. I really felt like it ended way too early, and I ran out of stuff to do way too early, but it was a good game. It was a really good game, and it could have been the one defining title in the genre. And I think to a lot of people it is. I reserve that statement and refuse to say it because I think it did not have enough content to be that. I think it was lacking a substantial amount. But anyway, so given that Banished said, alright, I've had enough, I'm done, I don't think it's really necessarily all that unjustified to say, okay, well, there's clearly a market niche here. I can see that, having played Banished. I wanted more. The second I played Banished, I wanted more. Please, give me more of this. I love this game. That's why I picked this up and was so excited about it. So, is it really so wrong for someone to come in and fill a market demand for a game like this when the person who you could say, I don't think owned, but it maybe came up with some of the concepts, has expressed a desire not to pursue it further? I don't think that's wrong. I think you could complain and go like, I don't know that it'd be justified, but you could definitely complain like, hey, this is too similar. They should have done more to differentiate it. But I also don't think that the developers of Life is Feudal have an obligation to make changes to the game for no reason other than to make it different from Banished. I think that's a stupid reason to make a product different. If there's a feature that works, and it's not like proprietary technology, which, yeah, I have a lot of other thoughts about that we should talk about. If there's something that works and it's not a thing that's like copyrighted or anything like that, why not? What's wrong with saying, look, it'd be like saying, look, Quake used WASD, or whoever used it first, so sorry, Half-Life, you have to find another control scheme. You're not allowed to use that one. That's silly. So I definitely understand maybe some vitriol and pushback saying like, oh, this game is just Banished, but they made their own and they're making money off of it even though it's not there. I don't think it necessarily is reasonable to say that it's not theirs. I think, yeah, you could definitely say some not very nice things about how, oh, you guys stole the interface, the UI is like almost identical. But I also don't necessarily think that's wrong. And if I was dealing with this 5-10 years ago, I would have made a snap judgment easily. Yeah, oh, this is totally wrong. They stole everything. They're those thieves. I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's really true necessarily. I'm not just going to bat because I like this game. I like Banished more in a lot of ways. Pretty much exclusively because Banished doesn't seem to have the flaws that this game does. This is a better game from a gameplay perspective. Banished is a better technical game as far as quality goes. And I think quality isn't everything, but it's pretty damn close. This is something that I would want to talk about a lot more in the future if I ever made my own product, which I'd like to do. But quality is the cornerstone of nearly every business that exists. And you can see... Do you think if Ubisoft made like a unfun Assassin's Creed, do you think that you'd see the public outcry that we saw when they were releasing unfinished game after unfinished game? Rushed, no bug fixes, everything's broken. You're seeing inside of people's heads. Do you think you see the same public outcry? My belief is that in any business, if you have a product or a service or anything that you are selling to anyone for money, unless the market niche that you occupy is low quality, low cost, which is a difficult space to occupy because you don't have very good margins, and the second someone, like, if you're using a low quality product and you suddenly have enough money to afford a better version, are you not going to get it? If you're consistently using it, would you not want a better version? I think everyone ultimately would want quality, right? So it's very difficult, I think, to, as a business, exist in that niche and be the low quality product because it's not appealing when you get down to it. Basically, you're only selling to people who are too poor to buy the better one, or want more, or if it's like a consumable one-time thing, you know, you'd do okay as a low-quality version just because people already use the high-quality version. They're like, well, I already watched that movie or read that book or enjoyed that content, whatever it might be, game, anything. And now they want more, so they go to the lower quality one because that's next on the list. You can succeed there, maybe. But I don't think that there is any individual facet of any product that is more important for the average business than quality. Quality is the most important factor. And this is something that came up repeatedly in the certification courses I've taken for, let's say, manufacturing is the easiest way to put it. There's a lot more work and thought that goes into manufacturing than you think, because we're not making toothbrushes anymore, at least not in this part of the world typically. And when we are, there's still work to be done, because you'd be surprised how complex plastics can be. And sometimes you get a batch of bad plastic from your supplier, I'm assuming, and it might meet the specification about what it should be and how it should work, but maybe you missed a detail, and well, there's actually a factor that makes it a bad quality material that you didn't account for and put in your contract. So now you have to pay for it, eat it, and then say, hey, well, you guys actually need to give me this now because this was bad. Doesn't really work that way, but you get the idea. It's a complicated thing, and quality is not something that you can just... It has to be a priority. And you frequently see... Actually, this is a great conversation to have within the context of the whole everything's going on with Intel right now. With the Meltdown and Spectre stuff. I know Spectre affects everything, but it's much more situational. Meltdown is a huge issue. And by the way, I highly recommend you read about it, because there's Linus Torvalds. He's like the Linux guy, as I understand it. He's responsible for, basically, I think the layman's way of putting it is the guts of Linux. And you may think, oh, Linux, who uses Linux? Oh, everyone uses Windows. Linux is nothing. You know nothing. Linux is everywhere. Businesses use Linux. Like, technical businesses use Linux a lot. Windows is there. Windows has, undoubtedly, I'm sure, more market share probably worldwide. But Linux is a lot bigger than you probably think. He came out and tore into Intel, saying they are insane, they do insane things. Do they know that they are insane? Because they're playing politics with their patches to the Meltdown bug, and trying to be, oh look, it's not completely our fault. We're the victims in this. It's the other thing's fault too. Don't blame us, but it kind of is completely their fault. And if you look into some of the stuff that's gone on, it kind of boiled down to someone coming in, an executive coming in, and prioritizing speed of product delivery and other factors over quality. They started skipping some of their quality POAs, points of assurance. Not necessarily a single one on a product, but they came in saying, no, you need to go faster, you need to do this, get it, deadlines and things like that. That is how you kill a business. Look at Ubisoft. Ubisoft didn't F around. They got called out on quality. Rightly so. And that's really stupid, because that's not just there's a minor flaw that crashes your computer sometime. No, that game was buggy as hell. I forget the name. It was like Origins or something. I forget which one it was. They're named in such a bland way that I can't differentiate any of them except Black Flag. But they blew it, and they ate it publicly. If you look at some of the articles and everything that happened around that, like, it takes a while to get the public's attention on these things, get everyone's attention. But when you do, you pay a price for it. And they paid a price. And they changed a major fundamental business. You may think, oh, just not releasing an Assassin's Creed every year? Not a big deal. That's a big deal. That has major financial implications. Their rate of return is much slower on the products that they're developing at that point if you're saying don't do an annual release. That means that they need to invest money over a longer period of time paying for development and writing and everything that goes into making a game before they see a return on it. They don't make that decision lightly. Getting a slower payout is a big deal. There's a million different metrics that I guarantee executives in that company are held accountable for that determine whether or not they get those ridiculous bonuses they get, that come from all of that. And they're saying, we're going to put that aside because we've gotten whipped publicly and we need to step back. It is not a small thing for a company to do that. They made the decision to put out games like they were for a reason. So anyway, I just want to be very clear that when you see major problems with companies that become public and shameful and problematic, it typically comes from quality. So, anyway, I forget what got me on that tangent, but I really enjoy that conversation. I think that's a really interesting thing to talk about. I think the average person probably doesn't know. I sure as hell didn't know much of anything about thinking about a product if you're not making one. I work in manufacturing. I make products every day. I've got my fingerprints on, oh geez, at this point, from a value perspective, I would not be surprised if the number was... No, I shouldn't say any number or anything like that. I have my fingerprints on a ridiculous amount of dollar value in product. Whatever that product is that we make. I have personally had an impact in building a tremendous amount of value as far as products are concerned. And you can't... I don't think you can fully appreciate how important quality is until you've done that and been part of making a product and been part of seeing the process and everything that goes into it. Because there's tons of people who you don't make a product, you make a service. Like if you're in retail, you're providing a service, not a product. You're not making any of this stuff on your shelves. Your company isn't making any. Well, maybe they're making some. They're probably contracted out, I would imagine, even if the store brand is on it. Almost certainly they contract it out. There's probably very few stores that don't. But you're providing a service. You're not providing a product. And the service is a product too, and you can think about quality in those terms, but it's much more acceptable to have lower quality service in a retail environment because you don't necessarily really need to interact with the parts of quality that matter in order to get what you need from the perspective of getting the product, which is what they're ultimately there for, not you. They're not really there for the service, they're there to buy whatever it is you have, especially these days with Amazon. They could cut you out of the picture entirely and never have to interact with anything other than a web page. So I guess quality is becoming more important there, as thanks to competition. Because there's no, trust me, there's no higher quality interaction in retail than Amazon. And I don't particularly like Amazon. I think they're too big. I think that causes issues long term. Monopolies are a problem, but as someone who probably has some degree of social anxiety, it's very difficult to beat not having to interact with a person, and it's very difficult to beat a web page. So, and the other thing, by the way, quick story before we end here. I ordered, it's a Waterpik. It's a dental hygiene thing. It's like flossing, but it shoots water in between your teeth. It's like a little water gun. It's like almost a pressure washer for your teeth, but obviously not a pressure washer because that would cut your mouth open. I ordered one because, I want to keep my teeth clean. Good dental hygiene is important. So I had one when I was a kid and then didn't have one for a while. And it's like, look, that was really good. I prefer that to flossing. It's much easier for me. So I ordered one. Never showed up. I was like, what the fuck? What happened? I got the notification on my phone that says it was delivered. Where'd it go? And I look, and the delivery driver had written delivered to front door. I'm like, no, you didn't. It's not at the front door. So I went on Amazon. I'm like, hey, I never got the package. So they say, oh, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We'll send you another one. No questions asked. They didn't verify that I hadn't gotten it, really. They just, yeah, okay, you didn't get it. Let's send you another one. No problem. So it arrives. No problem. Pretty quickly too, and I have my product. No issues. And then, months and months later, because I don't use the balcony, I look on the balcony and there's the package. And it had just been sitting there for several months. The guy had delivered it. It was there. I received it. But I don't go on the balcony. I don't know, man. It's right there. They could throw it, like it's a high reach, but they could throw it over. So he must have thrown it over the balcony and put it in there, knowing that was part of the condo, and been like, yeah, I delivered it. He didn't write where he delivered it correctly, unfortunately, which is what led to the error, but Amazon didn't care. They're like, no, you're good. And there's no way in hell you're getting that level of service from a local store, whether it's a big store or a local one. It doesn't matter. They're not going to do that. Ever. partly because they don't deliver anything, or they don't typically, but you get the idea, right? Like, yeah, how does Best Buy hit that level of service? How do you provide that quality of service? I don't think you can if you're Best Buy. So it's a very, I don't know, I find it extremely interesting. And if you look at quality, it can tell you a lot about various businesses. So anyway, something that I'm very interested in and enjoy. Hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Thank you very much for watching the episode. We got a bit over here, but that's okay. If you did enjoy it, feel free to come by twitch.tv/electronicmoose Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. I like having conversations like this, so if you enjoyed this kind of conversation, screw whatever game I'm playing, just come by and talk. We can have a conversation about what quality means and why quality is important for businesses. I don't care. That kind of thing is really interesting. We could have a conversation about why I think Life is Feudal kind of mimicking Banished isn't really a bad thing. And you could disagree with me, that's cool too. As long as you're not abusive, feel free to come by. It's always fun to have a chat about this. YouTube is not extraordinarily conducive for that, but thankfully we got Twitch and Twitch is, so if you're interested in that sort of thing, feel free to come by, 6 to 8 p.m. PST, 9 to 11 p.m. EST every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. I am trying to stream more, but we're not there yet, unfortunately. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.